Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the bird strategy for Forced Shuffle Dartmoor. Now, while explaining the strengths of this expansion, of what cards work with this expansion, I'm also going to explain how the cards function as well, but not necessarily all of them, because while some of them are birds in this expansion, not all of the birds will be extremely useful with this strategy, but with other strategies. And so therefore in other videos they'll get mentioned again, and we'll go over them if their abilities are more relevant to the other strategies. So the first one we're going to start with here is Tor, the moor that works with this bird strategy. It says whenever you play a card that's a bird, you get to draw a card. That's pretty nice. That means if you ever get to play a bird for free, it also means you're still going to get to draw the card. Now this is basically like some of the mushroom cards that we've had in the past in the original Forest Shuffle, except instead of it being a mushroom, it's a moor, and you can also play cards up and below the card. 2 below and 2 above, which is pretty nice. So anyways, so that's the first good card that works really well with the bird strategy. The next bird is an actual bird. The next card is an actual bird that's very useful with the bird strategy. This is the meadow pipit. It's a pretty easy bird to play, but it rewards you victory points for the amount of species of birds that you have. You need to have 6 or more. Okay, you need to have 6 birds, 6 different species of birds to score 10 points with this card. Now, that means you might want to track down another meadow pipit potentially, and while that is, some points, 10 points isn't a lot of points, but it's just one of the cards that's going to help if you're playing a lot of birds. But here's the thing. So you just need 6 different species of birds to score the 10 points with this, but there is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 different species of birds in this. 12 or 13 different species of birds in this game. So you only need 6 of them to score 10. Okay, and so I'm going to mention the ones that are the best for scoring points with the meadow pipit and the next card. So then there's another card that also scores you points based on the amount of birds you have, and it's going to go below the Tor because it's a plant. Okay, so let's just cover that up and bring it into view. All right, there we go. So let's just zoom out just a smidge. There we go. And fix it just a little bit. Okay, so then this is the blueberry. It's going to score you 2 points for every bird, different species of birds you have. So if you have 12 different species of birds, that's like 24 points. So while this will definitely reward you way more points than the middle pipit will, for sure, you're definitely going to want to get as many birds as you can if you're going to be playing lots of blueberries. This blueberry also works with the reptile amphibian strategy as well, just so you know. But yes, that's the idea. This is another card that works really well with the strategy. Now, because in the original game, for the most part, birds could only be played on top of a tree or a shrub, and there was only one bird, the capercaillie, that could be played on the left or right side of a tree. This game has more birds that can go on the side of a tree. Okay, so we have the crab apple tree. This is actually one of the best trees to utilize for the bird strategy. And there's a reason why, and we'll get to that momentarily, but let's explain how the card is going to work. First of all, this tree has to be fully occupied if you want to score 8 points. So you're definitely going to want to surround it to get the 8 points. And then if you satisfy the binocular ability or the binocular bonus by discarding a card that has that leaf on it, then you get to take one card from the clearing after you play this. Pretty sweet, okay? But the bird that is gonna work the best with this tree is going to be the nuthatch, okay? Or the nuthatch, okay? So you'll notice that this bird here, it scores you 10 points if this tree or shrub is fully occupied. So it's another one that has to be on a tree or shrub that's fully occupied. And if you're going to try to fully occupy a tree and you have the crab apple, this is most likely going to be the one you're going to want to finish first the most, right? And so then this one would score you 10 points if it also occupies the same tree. And it gives you an additional turn if you satisfy its binocular bonus as well, meaning you must discard 2 cards that have that leaf icon on it, on the cards you're discarding, to get the additional turn. But yeah, that's another bird that works really well with the bird strategy, with this bird strategy. Another bird that could potentially be really good for this strategy as well is going to be the tree keeper or tree creeper. And so this one is a costly bird. You have to, discard 2 cards, and it's only going to give you 5 points, but it does give you an additional card. It lets you draw a card. And if you have the Tor out, you could get 2 cards with this one. Or if you had multiple Tors, obviously more cards. So that's another good bird for the bird strategy, is the tree creeper. Another bird that's going to be good is going to be the gray heron, okay? So, thing about gray herons and several other animals and plants and insects and stuff in this game is there's going to be a lot of cards that can only be played in moors, okay? And it even says it on the card, can only be played in moors. Well, this is a moor. So the great heron is a good one because it just gives you 8 points. That's a good card. Just scores you 8 points. It's easy to play, but once again, it has to be played in a moor. Now, it doesn't have to be the Tor, it can be any moor, but that's the idea, okay? And moors count if they're also on this side, okay? There's gonna be times when you're gonna have a moor on the other side. This is also a moor, okay? And this would also allow you to get the 8 points and allow you to play this bird on this card like this, if this was the case, because this is also a moor. So that's the general idea, okay? So that's that one, okay? So then another bird that works really well with the bird strategy is this cuckoo. But you'll notice it has a placement condition as well. It can only be placed on another bird above a tree or a shrub. So for instance, you could never ever play a cuckoo on top of this gray heron, because the gray heron has to be placed on a moor, and this cuckoo can't be placed in a moor. So that's the idea. What birds would work well with the cuckoo as far as letting you play the cuckoo? Well, the meadow pipit, you could do that. The meadow pipit does not have to be placed in a moor. So you could play a cuckoo above a meadow pipit, for instance, and that would be fine. And it also scores you 7 points, so that's nice. Another easy bird to play, for sure. Is there any other birds that you could potentially play? Well, you could potentially play this wheat tier. You could have a wheat tier on a tree and also place the cuckoo above it. But the problem is you don't score any points if you place this bird on a tree, because it only scores you 5 points if placed in a moor. Let's see, what's another bird that you could play the cuckoo on? You could play the cuckoo on this buzzard, because the buzzard can go on trees and shrubs. That's another bird you could play it on. And you could also play it on the burrowing owl. Another bird that you could play the cuckoo on is the burrowing owl. So there's only literally like a few birds that are really good to put the cuckoo on. And the meadow pipit just happens to be one of the best you could put it on, because while you could easily put it on the buzzard or the burl or the barn owl, those birds mostly work with other strategies more. So most likely, if you're going to be playing the cuckoo for the bird strategy, you're going to be playing it on this bird here, more than likely. That's the general idea, though. So that's another bird that works really well with the bird strategy. And then we have another one. So this is another one that has to be placed on a moor, okay? And that's the black-tailed godwit bird. This one scores you 10 points if no other forest has more moors than you do. So it's similar to that woodpecker from the original game that scored you 10 points only if you had the most trees. But in this case, it's if you have the most moors, okay? Now, let's explain this binocular bonus ability here. Once again, this is another one that can only be placed in moors, but if you discard a card that has this leaf on it, then what you get to do is you get to take a card from your hand, okay? It could be any card from your hand, and you get to turn that card that's from your hand and flip it over to the other side, and it becomes a moor. So another place to place cards for you. Now in this game, there is no cards that let you like turn cards into trees and stuff like that. That's not in this game, but but the moors are. So you can turn. There's several different abilities that let you place basically turn cards into moors by flipping them over to the other side. That's the general idea. But yes, that's another good bird that would work well with the bird strategy. You know, that's mostly the ones that would work well, right? And so then the wheat tear is another one that would work well with the bird strategy, especially for the meadow pipit as far as like scoring points. So this one, its bonus binocular ability is per moor you have, you can reveal and put one card from the stack in your cave. Well, what's the stack? Well, the stack is basically the stack of cards that get drawn, you know, that you get to put into your hand. You draw 2 cards from the stack, put them into your hand. That's one of the actions, right? When you play a tree or when you play a tree, you place a card onto the you know, forest area so people can take that card potentially, right? It's the same thing. It's just the stack. So that's basically the idea. So if you have like 5 moors, then you're basically gonna put 5 cards from the stack into your cave for 5 additional points. So that's another good bird that would work well with this strategy. And the rest of the birds here, you know, they all will be basically more useful potentially with other strategies, with the exception of this one. So the common pheasant here is another good bird that would work well with this strategy, because it's going to score you points based on trees and shrubs you might have. You'll probably have some trees, but most importantly, its bonus ability also allows you to basically turn one of the cards into your hand of your choice into a moor. So this is a great way of getting rid of a card you don't want, but you don't want somebody else to take. You could use this ability to just turn it into a moor. So that's a useful thing to do. So that's another good bird that would work well with this strategy. And then even though we have the curlew here, and we have the capercaillie, and we have the common moorhen, and we have the buzzard, and we have the barn owl, these birds aren't extremely useful for the bird strategy, even though they are birds. So we'll mention them in another video. With that said, there's still one more card here that would work well with this strategy, and that is the grass snake here. So the grass snake, which does not have, which can only be placed in moors, by the way. So the grass snake has to be placed in a moor. But if you satisfy its binocular bonus ability, then you can play a bird for free, which is nice. And it's worth 5 points. What birds are good to play for free with the grass snake? Well, the curlew is a good one to play for free. The common moorhen is a good one to play for free. Let's see, what other birds do we got here? Hold on. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. The meadow pipit is another good bird to play for free. because these don't have bonuses. They're just worth victory points, these birds here that we're mentioning. So these are just good birds to play for free because of that reasoning. The cuckoo is another good bird you could play for free. Of course, you can play any of them for free, but then you don't get the bonuses that they might provide. So like maybe you could play this for free, but then the problem is you're not going to get that extra turn now, right? Oh, the great heron. That's another good bird that you can play for free. So I looked at all the birds, and so the grass snake could literally let you play 5 birds here for free. That would work really well, just getting to play a bird at the same time as this grass snake. But that's basically everything that works well with the bird strategy. So thank you guys for watching this strategy video. See you guys in the next one.